It made me cry.
This one's wife. Silence. Is she in crisis? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This one's wife has been largely silent for some 3 or so weeks. There have not been any public appearances. There has been a halt in her social media activity, at least on her personal account. Her last Instagram post was on the 4th of July, featuring her family's Independence Day celebrations. Her As Ever brand account has actually been particularly active, but that could be somebody who manages her social media and not necessarily her. It is the case that people believe that this is indicative of there being some kind of crisis for her, that perhaps she's in a position of withdrawal following a variety of setbacks. The most significant, of course, was in relation to the fact that Netflix aren't going to renew their 5-year deal with the Sussexes as a consequence, in effect, of underwhelming performance. Given the fact that Spotify didn't work out, that Lemonada aren't renewing, that Netflix aren't renewing, that might have precipitated this withdrawal and a crisis. It's also suggested that because they continue to experience a decline in popularity, that it may well be the case that this has also precipitated this period of silence. The fact is that there have been many social media posts on X which have been harsher, whereby they've been speculation about personal issues, which has actually included unfound claims of sobriety issues during Netflix reshoots. Whilst these claims lack substantiation, they reflect a negative sentiment that could be contributing to an overall crisis for her. There's the ongoing strained relations with the British royal family, particularly following reports of a secret meeting between King Charles and Harry's team. The fact is that these events, which I think are mainly driven by the press talking things up, could be seen by her as a further threat to control the suggestion of reconciliation, since she is unlikely to want to come back to the royal family because her narcissism regards it as a considerable threat to her need for control. Furthermore, she has stated that she basically won't step foot back in the UK ever again, and this is as a consequence of such a statement being made, driven by her narcissism, which looks at it and says, the press are hostile towards you, the public are hostile towards you, the royal family are hostile. Why on earth would you go back into that situation? And therefore, it could be that all of this talk about potential reconciliation, which is not something that she wants, but is something that has been driven by other parties, is generating a threat. And once again, this is causing her to stay in a position of withdrawal. It potentially could also be exacerbated by the staff departures that have been experienced, which may well signal internal disarray. We never know for certain what's going on, but if the end product has been various staff departures, it could well be that the various organs of Archewell and As Ever aren't functioning particularly well, which are causing further threats to control, which as a consequence means that she is staying in this position of withdrawal to focus on dealing with those matters. There are factors which could be causing threats to control, which means that she's dealing with it by way of staying in a position of withdrawal. But is it a crisis for someone such as this one's wife? Well, the answer to that is no. There'd essentially be 2 potential grounds for a crisis linked to her needs as a narcissist. The first would be the issue of control. Now, with the financial problems that they're rumoured to have and the lack of opportunities, that certainly presents as a threat to control. But it doesn't drive it yet to crisis level. It's not like they're running around with their arses hanging out, begging on street corners. There's still money there. It's just diminishing, and therefore it's not at crisis point. But the loss of the residual benefit is a threat to control. Are there any more threats to control on a daily basis than there usually might be? Not particularly. She still faces repeated criticism across social media and mainstream media, which doesn't appear to be any different from when it has been in the past, and therefore I don't see that the issue of control is one that would be precipitating any form of crisis on her part. What about a fuel crisis? Well, given the fact that she's not making public appearances, that means that she's not gathering fuel in those arenas in the way that she ought to, that she would ordinarily do so. Ditto staying off her personal Instagram account. Nevertheless, she'll still be well fueled. Although Harry has been overseas, she'll have had presumably some interaction with him, and if not him, then with staff, those non-intimate secondary sources which are regarded as friends, individuals that are employees, the children, if you accept that they exist, the potential for engaging with other people, if the Crazy Days and Nights blind is correct, that she was cozying up to some man on a night out. So it's not like she's been locked in a basement, chained to the radiator and unable to interact with anybody. She'll have plenty of opportunity for gathering fuel through existing interactions with the appliances in her fuel matrix, both in person and electronically. She will be able to go to sites and read what people are saying about her across the media and social media, which will provide her with some fuel. So she's nowhere near a fuel crisis. So what's going on with this silence if it's not a reaction to a potential crisis? Well, it's likely that she's just doing other things. For instance, there might be a little bit of work done in relation to as ever. As we know, there is the next drop of the new vintage of the rosé wine. So there may be some activity in relation to that. There could be some work in relation to the second half of season 1 of With Love Meghan. Who knows? There could be some editing, some reshoots, some promotional planning. To the extent that you accept that she's still with Harry and the children exist, then she may simply be utilising family time, and her absence could reflect a period of focusing on Archie and Lilibet. It might be that she's undertaking some advocacy work with Archwell. It remains active, and it might be that once again there's a shift away from the content creation to moving back to the philanthropy. It could be that she's taking time to network, that she's sniffing around for new opportunities, particularly driven as a consequence of the fact that no major offers are on the horizon. And there's a possibility also that she's engaging in some self-improvement by way of more cosmetic surgery. That is often something that's brought up when she goes quiet, because she is known to use that, and as a somatic narcissist, she is going to utilise cosmetic surgery to seek to enhance her looks, and it might well be that she's undergone some form of procedure and she's recovering from it, hence she's not been seen in public. There are plenty of things that she might be doing whilst she's silent. But the point is, it's not a reaction to crisis, because the threats to control are no greater than they ever have been. Yes, it's a significant setback with relation to Netflix, but that's not something that would tilt her into crisis, and her fuel levels will remain well serviced for the reasons that I've outlined. The fact is, whilst you may well be pleased that you're not seeing as much of her, the fact is she's going to reappear at some point. She can't help but do it because her narcissism will drive her to do so. There are other factors which are causing her to lay low at the moment, probably as a consequence of focusing on other things. But she'll reappear. Her birthday's coming up, which is likely to prompt some kind of announcement, some kind of heralding of what she's been doing. And therefore, she will reappear because she is that turd that just won't flush away. The only way that she's going to disappear is when people wholesale start to ignore her. Her silence is likely to be driven by other factors in terms of preparatory and family issues. It isn't a crisis at this juncture because the indicators of such in relation to control and fuel are simply not there. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.